What is up? Can you hear me okay? Got any viewers? Post fadeaways. What's up? What's up? Welcome, 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 everybody. Good, you guys can hear me. All right. Playing with the new mic. What's up, Rajon? Good to see everybody. All right. I'm experimenting for the first time. I'm going to go live on Instagram as well. So we're going to see how that works. The front-facing camera on my cell phone's kind of bad, but let's see what's up. I'm going to get it going over here on Instagram as well. For a little episode of Ask Coach C. You cats are awesome. So, this Ask Coach C series, I'm really, really excited because, I've got a buddy who's building a facility, and shortly we're probably going to have, an actual gym or a court to be able to do it on. So we're going to kind of do this Ask Coach C series. This might be the last one before kind of being in a gym and doing it. Because once we have some more reliable Wi-Fi and that sort of stuff, we'll be able to do it inside of a gym. So what's up, Instagram Live? What's up? Whoa. Things are flying. Sorry, I've got a rinkety setup here. That was super unfortunate. Let's see if I can get it back. Ugh. Goodness gracious. Flip. There we go. All right, we got Facebook back. All right, so for y'all, my bad. It went down. I've got stuff balancing on shot tracker boxes, because I don't have a tripod. I mean, I got a bazillion tripods, but not one that will fit one of these. So my apologies for everything flying off the handle there. I've got I've got YouTube Live going. I've got Instagram Live going, so I'm going to be taking questions from both y'all. I figured might as well run some live questions from both. That way we can kind of kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. So, start dropping your questions down below. I'm going to pick one from YouTube, then I'm going to pick one from Instagram. I'm going to go back and forth, and so hopefully we can get some good stuff. Mike Dunn on Instagram says, boy, that hairline's running. Man, ain't it the truth? I went and got clipped up, and I had a new gal who's not normally my hair cutter, and she took this back line high back here. It's like, whoo, it's drifting on me. All right, so I'm going to take one from YouTube here real fast. Scroll up, find a good one. All right, so Clutch Boy wants to know, what's Curry's secret to shooting? Now, Curry's got kind of a bunch of different secrets to shooting, but if I had to pick one secret that kind of really made the difference in Curry's shot versus everybody else's, is his maximizing of upward momentum, meaning being able to take that shot and have it fluidly, start and generate power in his lower body and then snap it all the way through his upper body and into the basketball. And his ability to generate that upward momentum and power and perfectly harness it into the basketball is something that not a lot of players do, right? And so that's one of the reasons why I think he's probably the best shooter of all time, and because he can shoot it out of so many situations, because no matter where his feet are, where the basketball's at, how he's dribbling, he's able to maximize that upward momentum and power. So that's one reason why I think he's probably one of the best shooters of all time. And I think that's probably his secret to shooting if I had to guess. No problem, Clutch Boy. You're the man. Thanks for watching. Thanks for asking. All right. Oh, sorry. I'm going to go Instagram for this one. All right. So Reed Aiden wants to know, how do you get a consistent release from Instagram? Good question. Consistent release. So consistency is built over time for the most part. And consistency really comes from kind of reps and practice and building that muscle memory as you're kind of going over time. With consistency, a lot of times too, you have to think about it's your body biomechanics that can make a difference, right? So I'll work with a player and maybe they've got some sort of issue with their release where their wrist is snapping off to the left or maybe to the right. And sometimes that mechanic isn't necessarily caused just because their wrist is doing it, but instead is caused because it's flexing because something in their lower body or something in their hips or something in their alignment or something by where they're bringing up the ball is changing it and making it difficult to have that perfect release. So, consistency is tough because basically you got to find out where your inconsistencies are coming from first, and then you've got to rep them out. right? So it's kind of that problem-solving process of elimination that I really think, is most important in shooting, is being able to figure out, exactly what the problem is, diagnose it, get rid of it, fix it, whatever it is, and then get your reps and consistency. Most of the time, that's going to help you out a ton. So let's go back over to Facebook. Good question, though. I like it. Consistency is one of those ones that a lot of people ask about, and a lot of coaches just want to tell you reps. It's just reps. All it is reps. But really, reps only go so far if you haven't optimized your shot completely. So great question over there. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to look for real good ones here. All right, so sorry, I'm going to butcher your name here, but it's a great question. Vinicius Tavares wants to know cookie jar or flat release, meaning on your release, should you snap your fingers down in that cookie jar release, or should you keep them flat, kind of more cast to the basket? There's shooters that have gotten good results with either release. If you look at Ray Allen, he's more of kind of a cast flat release. If you look at guys like Curry, he's kind of more of a cookie jar snap. I always think that it's kind of a matter of personal preference. Personally, I like to try to get my fingers down, try to get that snap on that release, the cookie jar, because it gives a little bit better backspin and rotation on the ball. Not saying you can't get it with a flat release, but it just a lot of times it helps with that kind of rotation and shooter's touch that we see quite a bit. One of the biggest keys that I think when it comes to the cookie or the cookie jar release is that you don't have to get all of your fingers in the cookie jar, right? Generally, kind of the old myth or old rule of thumb is that all your fingers have to flex down into the cookie jar. But you'll notice, as you're watching this, take one of your hands, flex them down, and as you flex all 4 fingers down, notice that you get a ton of tension on the top of your hand and then towards the back of your wrist. Right? So a lot of times this can kind of negate that really nice snap that we like to have on the basketball. So what I recommend a lot of times is picking your dominant finger to be down in the cookie jar, and then that's going to allow that tension to be a little bit less, give you a little bit more snap on the ball. And so what I mean by that is if you're a middle finger shooter or an index finger shooter or a split finger shooter, you want your dominant fingers to snap down. So like if you watch my release in slow motion because I'm a middle finger shooter, as I snap down, I don't go all 4 fingers down. I go 1 finger, my middle finger down, and so most of the time my release looks more like this. And if you really look at guys like Steph Curry, his release is kind of more like this too, where he's got 1 finger that snaps forward, and then his other ones kind of drift up just slightly, allows him to get kind of that nice bounce of the wrist. See right here, I can get a nice little bounce, whereas if I flex them all down, I can't really get my wrist to bounce. That's where we kind of get that nice floppy snap. So good question. Totally up to you, right? You can get good results with either one, but I kind of lean towards the cookie jar release. For me personally, specifically 1 finger down. All right. KJ wants to know... hold on a sec. All right, so Dom on Instagram wants to know how he can extend his range. So like I was just kind of talking about Curly earlier and maximizing your upper momentum and power, range is about power, right? Range is about being able to get enough power on your shot no matter how much, force you need to get it there, right? So it's not necessarily about how much you can lift. It's not about how much you can bench press or squat or all that sort of stuff. But really what range is all about is that maximizing of upward momentum and power. So the number one trick and the number one thing that I see a lot of players do wrong when it comes to getting range is that they need to optimize their set point to be better timed. And what I mean by that is most players get to their set point and their knees are still really loaded. I'm going to try to get to the side here so you can see. So they get to their set point and they bring the ball up just like this, and the ball hits their set point up by their head as their legs are still loaded down here at the bottom. Now the issue with this is the ball pauses right here at their set point for a second as their body fires, and then as it fires through, they lose that upward momentum power. So think about having your ball and your hips move together at the same time. So as my hips go up, the ball should start going up, and it shouldn't hit my set point until my legs are fully locking out, right? If the ball's hitting your set point when your legs are fully locking out, that's going to optimize that upward momentum, and it's going to travel into the basketball and towards the hoop, right? It's kind of like throwing a baseball pitch. If you're a pitcher, you want to get a wind-up, ball goes back to then go forward at the same time, right? Whereas if I was a pitcher and I just started with the ball back here and just kind of held it and tried to throw, it'd probably be really hard to get a lot of velocity and speed on it, right? Same sort of thing. Got to generate power all together to transfer into momentum. Good stuff. Good question. I like it. Instagram, firing some good questions today. You guys are on your game. All right, so Brad Goodman. Ooh, good question. I was even thinking about doing a YouTube video on this here earlier today. Brad Goodman wants to know how to be a better passer with better decision making, read and react situations, right? So being a better passer, the very first thing that I would do is I would work on controlling and manipulating the defense with your eyes, right? Passing, people don't realize, isn't as much, perfect passing mechanics as it is shifting defenses to get windows to pass through, right? So that's why like things like no-look passes are so important, because you're shifting a defender out of the way so you can pass through that window. So the first thing you want to do is you want to work on using your eye movement to move defenders around, right? And it's almost like a quarterback in football. You see a lot of these elite level quarterbacks, if they want to throw to the left, they'll look to the right just for a second because they know they're going to drag everybody over, and then they can hit their target going back the opposite direction, right? So the very first thing, use those eyes to slide the D, and you kind of have to start seeing the game one step ahead, right? If you see your teammate getting ready to cut towards the hoop, you want to look off early enough so you can hit them when they're on that cut rather than when it's too late, right? So you got to be kind of thinking one step ahead of the game. The next thing that you want to do is you always want to know your personnel. You always want to know your personnel. And this is something especially point guards want to know, because when you're passing, you might have a great pass, and you might throw the exact same pass to two different players. But if there are two different players that, one can catch the pass and one can't, it's not a good pass for one where it might be for another one. So an example of this might be, let's say you're playing point guard, and you've got a shooting guard who's got great hands, right? Maybe they play wide receiver on the football team, whatever it is. So an over-the-top lob pass on the fast break might be a good pass to them because they can go and they can catch it, right? That's decision, knowing your personnel. Whereas maybe your power forward or your center might be a stone hands type of guy who can't catch that pass over the top, so it's not a good pass to throw to him, right? A lot of times players, we just kind of assume that every pass is created equal, and a good pass is a good pass and a bad pass is a bad pass, but that's not necessarily true, right? You've got to know your personnel, you got to know who can catch what, who can catch where. The best passers on the planet will know like the super intimate, tiny details about their players. Like there's a story about Rajon Rondo when he played with the Celtics. He knew exactly how Ray Allen liked the laces on the basketball on a pass, so he'd give him the ball a specific direction with the laces on each pass that he could. And so those are just kind of those fine details. Being a better passer is a lot about knowing your own teammates and what they're good at. Solid question, though. Man, that was good. Let's see here. Back over to Instagram. Instagram, keep them coming. Keep them coming. Man, you guys got a lot of phenomenal questions out here. All right, so Baller791, shouts on Instagram over here, wants to know, Coach, how can I get out of a slump? Now, slumps are tough, right? We all have slumps. No matter how good of a shooter you have, you will go into a slump at some point, right? Look at Klay Thompson right now in the NBA Finals. He was in a bit of a slump, right, for a portion of the playoffs. So I think there's a few different ways to get out of slumps. Number one, you have to kind of retrain your thinking and retrain your mind, right? To get out of a slump, you can't kind of dwell on it. A lot of times if you dwell on a slump and all you think about it is, I got to hit more shots, a lot of times it makes it harder to break out of. So the very first thing you want to do is visualize yourself making shots and kind of getting your mind right, whether that's visualization or, watching movies or whatever it is, whatever kind of your normal, kind of standard routine is, that's what you want to try to do to begin with. If you can get your mind right, that's a great start. After that, to get a slump, I always like to try to shoot free throws and form shooting. Those are two in practice that if you're ever in a slump can kind of really dial back in your mechanics, because most of the time if you're in a slump, there's just something that's a little off, right? It might be a little hand placement issue, or it might be a little bit of momentum issue, or it might be something that you worked out of your jump shot a year ago and somehow it crept back in. And so form shooting and free throws are a great way to kind of, in a condensed, controllable environment, figure out how you want to, get everything just right. So that's what I would probably do. I would, number one, use visualization, and then number two, I would use form shooting and free throws to kind of hit those shots. And just know that you're going to come out of it. If you're a good shooter, you'll be a good shooter again. Slumps are only temporary, and the more you dwell on it, the worse they're going to be. Good question, though. All right, I got time for a couple more. All right. Enrico Taco from YouTube Live wants to know, this is an interesting question. This is why I'm picking it. Is an NCAA replica a good ball to train with? Or what do you recommend? So this is what I recommend. I recommend whatever ball you train with be the ball that you play with. Now, I get this question a lot, what's the best basketball to play with, right? But really, it depends league to league. Some high school leagues play with a certain basketball, while other high school leagues will play with a different. Some youth leagues will play with a specific basketball. So I would try to figure out what basketball you're going to be playing with and then train with that basketball. Because basketballs are really different. The difference between a Nike ball and, let's say, like a TF1000, there's a big difference with the way they feel, the way they come out of your hand, and all that sort of stuff. So I would definitely figure out what's the best ball, that you're going to be actually playing games with, if you can narrow that down, and then I would train with that, right? If you're an overseas player and you're going to be using Molten, I would definitely train with a Molten ball, right? If you're a high school player and like in Idaho where I live, they play with the TF1000s, you're going to want to train with a TF1000, right? So really it just kind of depends person to person, player to player, state to state, location to location, and that's going to change what basketball you want to train with. Great question though. I love it. All right, let's head over to Instagram here. Luke wants to know Luke Kennard's shooting secrets. It's going to come, I promise. I love Luke Kennard's stroke. It's just a matter of fitting it in. Let's see here. All right, JoJo Smooth. Ooh, good question. JoJo Smooth on Instagram wants to know biggest keys to get a great sweep and sway. So what he's referring to is a sweep of your feet forward. So as you shoot, your feet come forward slightly, and the sway meaning your shoulders come backwards or relax slightly. Now this is important because number one, it optimizes your arc, gives you more power, more fluidity, all that sort of good stuff. But the whole key to this, and there's two main keys. The whole key is number one, you want your feet to land closer to the hoop than when you took off. Kind of the old, classic days of we got to land in the same spot we took off from aren't necessarily true all the time. And number two, your first step after releasing the basketball should be a relaxed one step backwards. And what I mean by that is as you release the basketball, so I'm going to show you from the side here. As you release the basketball, your first step should be one relaxed step backwards. So as you land, you should have your body at a back angle just like that. So your first step is, boom, just a relax backwards, right? If I land and I have to backpedal really fast, that means that you were too far and had too much sweep and sway. So a really good barometer is just to make sure that you're landing and it's that little relaxed step back, because that'll tell you that your shoulders are back, optimizing your arc just like that, right? So that's kind of the key. Number one, feet come forward, and generally player to player is going to be a little bit different. Some people like a little sweep, some people like a bigger sweep. And then with the sway, you just want to try to make sure that your first step after your release is back just really relaxed and casually. If you can do that, your shoulders are going to be relaxed, getting that pendulum to go through the basketball. Solid question. Let's go one more. We'll go one more question over here. You guys are asking phenomenal stuff. We're already at 17 and a half minutes. You guys are awesome. Sorry, I'm looking for a real good one for this last one. Sorry. Defensive tips. Oh, I like it. I'm planning a video on defensive tips that I'm shooting tomorrow morning. Hopefully going to upload in the next week or so. This is by Dojo Dejang on YouTube Live. So defensive tips, right? My number one defensive tip that I have is that you have to change your defense depending on the player that you're guarding, right? The name of the game when you're on defense is trying to make a player do what they're worst at, right? So if a player is a better driver than they are a shooter, you want to try to get them to shoot. If they're a better shooter than they are a driver, you want to try to get them to drive. If they're better with their right hand than they are with their left hand, you want to try to get them to use their left hand, right? It's all about analyzing what's their biggest weakness and then trying to make them do that weakness, right? And if you're playing a great basketball player, let's say you're playing Kobe Bryant and he doesn't really have any weaknesses, you still want to try to find that one and force him into those, right? Generally for me, what I kind of really like to think about is if everything's equal, if they're a great ball handler, they're a great shooter, they've got a complete game, right? And it's kind of like, I don't know what to do. I try to get them to shoot contested mid-range jump shots or inside the three-point line, right? Contested inside the three-point line jump shots, because those are the hardest to hit. They're going to be the lowest percentage. And if they do end up making them, points per possession, as far as like basketball analytics go, is one of the kind of the worst shots that you want to take. So most of the time, if somebody's a great scorer, and they might even still hit some of those mid-range shots on you, but it's better to have them doing that than attacking the basket or shooting the three-pointers, because those are both going to be a higher points per possession sort of thing. So really, it's about figuring out what the defense is worst at, and then going from there. Good question, though. All right, yo. Hey, You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being on the live stream. We got people over here on Instagram. We got people over here on YouTube Live. It's crazy how fast, like 20 minutes to a half hour goes when we're doing these live streams. I mean, I feel like I barely got to answer questions, and I'm literally at like 20 minutes right now on the live stream. So you guys are phenomenal. So I got to cut it short. Let me know, because I do check the comments back after this video on YouTube. So let me know if there's questions you want me to lead with next week, or if you want me to make videos on. And then hopefully we'll be in a gym soon for these Ask Coach Live series, so we can get a ball in hand and show you some demos and kind of do that more stuff. Because right now I'm just out here in my little office, and so I can't really get the best demos possible. So coming soon. All right. Hey, again, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, Coach Colin Castell with ShotMechanics Basketball. And until next time, splash on.